Graham Yost was born with a love of movies etched in his DNA. His father hosted a popular TV Ontario show called Saturday Night at the Movies. He himself spent many evenings watching and studying movies, and now he is a critically acclaimed TV and film screenwriter who works with movie stars and moguls. Yost won an Emmy and Golden Globe for the HBO miniseries From the Earth to the Moon, an Emmy for Pacific and other productions. He's won a Peabody. He is currently, I'm tired. He's currently the executive producer and writer for Justified on FX. It is my pleasure to welcome Graham Yost to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Well,
God, when you put it that way, it just sounds exhausting.
It probably is exhausting.
I was saying to someone, I went from sort of the young Turk up-and-comer to wily old veteran like that.
Like that? When did it happen?
I don't know. I woke up one morning and people wanted to know what I thought. Up until then, no one cared. But anyway.
Take me back to the days when no one cared. Your first film, your first time you sat down to write a screenplay.
Well, I mean, you mentioned my dad. So I got interested in writing because not only did my dad host the show Saturday Night at the Movies and Magic Shadows, a bunch of other stuff, but he was also a writer and he wrote some great children's adventure novels. So I knew that, there was maybe a possibility of earning a living doing that. And so I started writing screenplays, and the first thing I sold was Speed, with half Canadian Keanu Reeves in that. And people say, wow, your first thing you sold got made, and it was a big hit. Well, it was the 15th screenplay that I wrote.
15th?
None of them were good, and that was the first one that was at least good enough to sell.
Okay, It's like J.K. Rowling, the instant success with Harry Potter, but she said, I used up all the paper, in England before
that,
writing,
exactly.
writing, practicing,
Yes.
all of that. I said you studied movies as a lad. It may not be true. Did you?
Well, I mean, I studied them in the house, and I did a little bit at the University of Toronto, but it was more in the house. I mean, my dad would, show us there's a story that I love to tell, which is that this is back in the day before VCRs, before DVDs. My dad would scour the Toronto Star film listings, and he saw that Citizen Kane was going to be on CBC late at night. So he said, you're going to stay up and watch it, and you can sleep in, and I will write you a note. And he wrote me a note saying Graham is late for school because I let him sleep in because he was staying up and watch Citizen Kane. And, the principal, and they had to hand it to the principal, and he looked at it and went, okay. My dad was hoping for a fight. He was hoping for film is every bit as important as, this and that.
And if you were really educating my son, you'd show him Citizen Kane in school and discuss it.
Absolutely. And he'd been a teacher. He was a teacher in Toronto, and he did show films to kids.
When you watch a film today, your film or somebody else's, can you enjoy it, get lost in it, or are you looking at the cinematography, or are you listening to the words, the pacing?
It's sort of a mix. I mean, that's a really good question, because I find if I am paying attention to the cinematography or the music or anything, then I'm not in the story. And I love it when I go to a movie and it gets me, and off I go. And it can be, high art and low art, whatever. As long as the story is good and the characters are compelling and it's well done. And yet there are some times with some movie makers like Tarantino or the Coen brothers, I'm always sitting back a little bit. I'm not so much in the story, but I love what they do so much. Or Aaron Sorkin as a writer. I always say I can hear his typewriter in anything he does, but I love the sound of his typewriter. I just love to hear what he has to write.
Great line, and you understand what he's trying to tell you. Like you do Elmore Leonard.
Yes.
Great American novelist. He must be about 85.
He's 85.
Is he 85?
He's 85. He might be
a New Orleans
86.
boy, right?
No, he did. He grew up all around the country, but settled in Detroit, was writing for Pontiac and GM and things like that, doing ad copy.
Really? Well, you heard Ron James say reading Elmore Leonard is like smoking an unfiltered Lucky Strike with a glass of scotch beside you. So, Justified. The roots in Elmore Leonard's novels, what? Take me to the
Yes, well,
the
main character is Raylan Givens, and he appeared in Elmore's book Pronto, just kind of a secondary character.
U.S. Marshal.
Yeah, U.S. Marshal. And Elmore has told me, because I can say that now, Elmore has told me. No, but that is honestly one of the greatest perks of this job is talking to Elmore Leonard. But anyway, he likes to audition characters, see how they work. Karen Sisko, who was the main character in Out of Sight with Jennifer Lopez and George Clooney, he saw a picture of a U.S. Marshal female holding a shotgun and said, I'm going to write a story about her. So he wrote a short story. He liked her so much, became a novel. And similarly with Raylan, he tried him out in Pronto, gave him most of the book writing the rap, and then he had a short story commitment. He had to write something for something, and he thought, well, I'll take Raylan home. I'll send him back to Kentucky and see what happens there.
And he didn't want to go to Kentucky, right?
Didn't
He
want
was
to go
reluctant.
to Kentucky. Yeah, and so, you know, Sony Pictures Television had optioned the story. I read the story, and I said, this would make a great series.
And it has made a great series, and it's continuing. What season?
We have finished airing the second season. We are now writing and start shooting the third season in a couple weeks.
And how much input do you have? I know you should have lots, but sometimes that's not the case.
No, in this case, yeah, I'm what they call in the States the showrunner. And so, you know, everything goes through me, and that means I can take all the responsibility and all the glory, and then quickly avoid any blame. You know, that's my job. It's, oh, it wasn't my fault.
Wasn't my fault.
I didn't write that. No, it's that's the job.
What's the process? You take a novel, somebody options a novel and says to you, Graham, can you make this into a movie?
Well, in the case of this, there was this novella, 60 pages or so, called Fire on the Hole, taking Raylan Gibbons from Miami and taking him back to Kentucky. And so when I was adapting that for the pilot episode of Justified, there were points where I was wondering, well, what's Raylan going to say next? And I thought, well, what did Elmore have him say next? And I would literally just retype Elmore's dialogue. So that was a straightforward adaptation. The problem starts when you've got to do the second episode, and there's no more stuff from Elmore.
Right.
We've got to make it up ourselves.
In his voice or your own?
Well, you know, there's some of me in there, and there's some of all the other writers and the actors and everything. But we're really shooting for Elmore. That's our goal. You know, a lot of us felt that it would be great if you could do Elmore Leonard on a weekly basis, and we've been lucky.
You won an Emmy for Band of Brothers.
Yeah, I didn't win the Emmy for Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers won for the miniseries. I went up on stage when I wasn't invited. No, we all just went up on stage.
Well, I had you winning the Emmy, so you can take it home.
No, listen, I've been very lucky. I've done 3 miniseries with Tom Hanks, 2 with Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. I said to Tom once, I think you think I'm just your sort of, you know, your luck charm, your good luck charm, your rabbit's foot or your mascot or something, because we continue to do those things together. Doing From the Earth to the Moon, paying tribute to the Apollo astronauts was an incredible honor. But then you do World War II with Band of Brothers in the Pacific, and it's, you know, it's about the best job you could ever have.
I'm sure. And sitting down with Tom Hanks can't be all that shabby.
Tom is a great guy, and he's very smart. He's great to work with.
He just seems to be. I know Hollywood is smoke and mirrors a lot of the time.
You know, people will say that Tom Hanks is, you know, he's the nicest man in Hollywood. No, he's just a regular guy. I mean, who's, you know, perfectly aware that he's a huge movie star and has made a gazillion dollars, and, you know, but no, and he's just very smart. And as is Spielberg. I mean, Spielberg has this laser-like focus on whatever project he's working on.
That creative brain lets that out, eh?
Yeah.
How good is that? Travolta, you worked with Travolta.
Worked with Travolta. You know, I met him, I think, once on Broken Arrow. We were in an elevator together. I think they were doing the press junket, and that was about it.
Right.
But he was great casting. You know, it was sort of, let's have him play the bad guy. It's like, oh, that works.
Why not?
Yeah.
How has filmmaking changed today with distribution, all of that? Big budget films aren't bringing in the millions that they used to, I don't think. Do you know what I mean? We've got YouTube, and everybody thinks they're a filmmaker, Netflix, all of that. What's changed?
Well, I mean, everything is changing, but it always has. You know, you go back to when talkies came in, to when television came in, to when the VCR started, then DVD, and you know, we'll see what happens. I think it's great that someone can make a film on their iPhone. You know, give it a shot. Low budget, give it a shot.
That's good.
You know, at the same time, the downside is that there's been so much emphasis on, as they say, you know, your film has to either cost over $100 million or under $10 million. That's what they're, because they either want the big things,
right,
that, you know, it's going to draw everyone, or it's a little film that's got a shot, doesn't have to do as well. So the upside of that is that television has really expanded and has really opened up with all the cable outfits in the U.S. now. That there is FX, AMC, you know, TNT and USA, all, and of course HBO and Showtime. That there's a lot of opportunities
Take
to
it
do
over
different
that
things.
limit. The Mad Men
Yeah.
would show things that perhaps the networks wouldn't show.
Exactly. And it's not just swearing and nudity. It's,
No.
it's story and how you tell the story. One of the reasons we were so happy that Justified sold to FX is because they understood Elmore Leonard. You have to spend time with the bad guys, that you can have a story that kind of tumbles along for episodes after episodes. Whereas if you're on a network, they probably would have wanted, well, this is the case of the week, and and not so much time with the bad guys, and so they gave us the room to breathe.
I saw the first episode of Pan Am. What's it called? It's about the flight attendants
Right.
in the 50s, the 60s, Pan Am, and I thought, are they trying to take us back to Mad Men Gone a Little Awry or what? I didn't get it. I don't quite get it. I hope it gets better.
I haven't seen Pan
okay.
Am.
Well, and I'm no critic.
Well,
Playwrights, live stage.
yes.
Somebody you admired growing up, who inspired you?
Well, there's a family story there, which is one of my dad's closest friends. They did summer stock together in the 50s, is Bernard Slade.
Right.
And Bern had written for television in the States. He was also a model for me. It's like, well, you can be a Canadian, you can go to Hollywood, and you can make a living. So, but then I think it was 1975, he had an idea for a play, and he wrote Same Time Next Year. And my dad and I got to go to the premiere.
Oh,
that. And that was fun. It was fun living through him vicariously and seeing that whole New York theater life come alive. Listen, I acted when I was at the University of Toronto.
Really?
I was fantastic. No, I wasn't.
Well, I hear tell.
No.
Stratford didn't call?
They never, they lost my number. I did this weird thing with Second City. They had an improv workshop. And I was doing it mostly to help my writing. Just figuring out how to do improv would help character work. And into the improv class comes I was like 19 at the time. It comes to this 16-year-old, maybe I was 20, kid, and he was just, you could tell, just brilliant. He could do anything, voices, characters, and it was Mike Myers. And him. But you could just tell the room kind of like, oh my God, that guy's got it. And then he went on to Muskoka, Second City, and then obviously on
It's
to the
the
world.
X factor, the it factor. Anybody who auditions, and I know you've been in many auditions, you see it immediately. Like they can all sing, dance, tap,
Right.
speak, and then someone just has it.
Just has it.
Especially live. Kim
Especially
Cattrall,
live.
who's doing Private Lives with Paul Gross in Toronto right now, when she was here doing Sex in the City, she said her heart and soul are on the live stage, not on screen.
Well, I did some, as I said, did some acting. I've never been so scared in my life, but it was great fun when it was over. But like Ron James, I mean, he has it. He knows how to do that. But as he said, it's all that training in the kitchen and in the classroom, and then it's a whole different thing when you get into the professional
And
world.
he still feels the magic behind the curtain when the audience comes in.
Right.
That's hot.
That's exactly.
What's next on your agenda?
Well, I'm here for the Vancouver Film Festival.
I knew that.
Yeah, I'm doing
Doing
that.
the
That's on
forums.
my agenda. I'm doing that, and just keep doing Justified.
Okay. I'll keep on watching then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.